I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is a return visit from filmmaker and director Peter Pardini. If you didn't catch Peter's first appearance on Fascination Street, I highly recommend going back and checking that out. A lot of good stuff in there, and a lot of that stuff that we talked about back then correlates to what we talk about in this episode. In this episode, we talk a little bit about his NSNG dietary lifestyle and how that's working for him. We also touch a little bit on his previous film, Fat, a documentary with Vinnie Tortorich, but mostly we talk about his new feature film, Rolling Thunder, starring Jake Armbruster, Wes Studi, Joe Mantegna, and the band Chicago. Peter tells us about how he came up with the idea for this film, the uniqueness of it, which I have to admit is very unique. I've never seen a film like this ever, and I mean that in a good way. This is a great film. I did have a chance to watch it before this conversation, and it is wonderful. It's out now. I highly recommend you go find it. It's called Rolling Thunder. This was recorded during all the self-distancing due to the coronavirus outbreak. So if that is over by now, woohoo. If not, damn it. But either way, this is my second conversation with filmmaker and director Peter Pardini.
Yeah, talk to me,
Welcome back to Fascination Street, Peter Pardini. How you doing today, Peter?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am wonderflonium. Now, Streetwalkers, Peter has been on the show before. This is a return appearance. I highly recommend you go back and check out his first appearance where we talked about his new film, Fat, a documentary, which he did with three-time guest Vinnie Tortorich and previous guest Serena Scott Thomas as well. And also we talked a little bit about his movie that he had, I think, maybe just finished filming called Rolling Thunder. And so, folks, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Rolling Thunder. But first, Peter, the last time we talked a little bit about NSNG, No Sugar, No Grain.
Yeah.
How's that working for you?
You know, it's become a way of life for me. And if I'm being completely honest, during this, whole quarantine, whatever you want to call it, stay at home, it's been a little bit harder, but I've been pretty good about it. I eat twice a day at the most, so out of 10 to 14 meals a week, I'm probably 12 or 13. I'm probably 13 out of the 14 are NSNG, if not 14 out of 14. I try to tell people about it when they kind of are talking about, I need to go on a diet, but I've seen that people just need to do it for themselves before they're told to do it, because once you do it, you can't really stop doing it, even if you have a cheat meal every now and then.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that the last time you were on, we talked a little bit about that. Part of the goal of Fat, a documentary, was not to tell people what they should do, but to show them why they should do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that, having seen the film a couple of times since then, I wholeheartedly agree. Also, side note, kids, I think it was, it doesn't matter, a couple of weeks ago, Vinnie Tortorich was on the Adam Carolla podcast again, and he happened to mention that he was working on a sequel to Fat, the documentary. And at that time, he mentioned that Peter was busy doing something else. And so then that piqued my curiosity. And instantly I was like, I wonder what Peter's doing. And then lo and behold, here we are to talk about what Peter was doing. And to go back to not really telling people about it or what to do or whatever, sort of not proselytizing the
right.
NSNG lifestyle. I'm 100% in agreement with you, my friend. A lot of people will complain about, this or that, or my best friend is super into NSNG. Like he was already always fit, and he was a state record athlete in college or whatever. But, now he's in his mid 40s, and, your body starts to change in your mid 40s. Your muscles start to, maybe get a little smaller and you get a little tireder and whatever. But he switched basically like full head on NSNG. and he has never been happier. He tells everybody he can that this is what they should be doing. And the problem with that is that sometimes he's telling that to people who, let's just say, for health reasons, could probably lose more than 3 figures, right?
Yeah.
More than 100 pounds. It was really funny. He was telling me this story. This, friend of whoever he was talking to, and she was like, so what are you doing? Like, what you look, you look amazing. What are you doing? I would do anything to lose some of this weight. And he said, anything? And she goes, yeah. And he goes, okay, well, put cream in your coffee, eat steak, eat chicken, eat bacon, eat eggs. She was like, whoa, that'll kill me. I can't do that. He said, I thought you said anything. Yeah. She goes, well, I mean, not that. That's just dangerous. So we had that conversation, and I started laughing. And he was like, why is that funny to you? And I said, because that's the exact reason I don't tell anybody shit unless they ask me. And if they do ask me and I tell them and they have that reaction, I stop talking immediately.
Yep.
Because I don't care. I mean, I'm doing what I'm doing for me. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. I really don't care if you do it or not. So if I were to keep talking, then I would get mad when they didn't do it. And it's nothing for me to get mad about. It's your life. It's your health.
Yeah, when I was making the movie, I mean, I was like, if I'm at a 20% now of sharing information with people, I was maybe at a 30% then, just because I was in it, doing it. But, I just have seen just for almost any change that someone needs to make in life, like they're never going to do it when someone from the outside tells them. Like they have to get to a point where they're going to do something. And my whole thing is like, based on what most people are eating, any change is going to be good. And then you make adjustments from there to get better and better. Like if you're in a life-threatening situation, then yeah, I would say you have type 2 diabetes. Your doctor says that it's going to get worse. Like you need to do something. It's not up for debate anymore. But I hear people, and I mean, when we were allowed outside, when we were at Starbucks, I used to go to Starbucks every day and sit there. And you'd hear people talking about, oh yeah, I'm doing vegan and it's really healthy. And I just am like, fine, let them do what they want to do. That's none of my business. But, for me, it's like it all starts with me, because I'm not perfect on the NSNG. And today's day one, like I cheated yesterday, and today's day one of trying to be perfect again for a long time. So it's always a movement. So I've got to look at myself first, and that's hard enough.
That's one of the things I like about it is that, Vinny will say, don't look at it as cheating, and don't look at it as day one, like you're starting all over. Like, oh no, just, I did a thing and that was cool.
It's a continuation.
Yeah, I did a thing. It was cool. And now I'm going to go back to my other thing.
Exactly.
I think it was yesterday, this friend of mine, I was talking to her on the phone, and she was like, hey, are you still doing that weird diet thing? And I go, well, first of all, it's not a diet. She goes, okay, whatever.
Are you still killing yourself?
Yeah, she goes, are you still doing that weird diet thing? And I go, well, it's not a diet. And she goes, okay, my bad. Sorry. Are you still doing that weird lifestyle thing? And I was like, yeah, I am. And it's worked great. I've kept 50 pounds off for over 2 years, and my blood numbers are fantastic. I've never felt better. I mean, obviously it sucks. Man. Thank you. Obviously it sucks that we're all quarantined and stuff, but other than that, I've never felt better.
Yeah, exactly. Roll with the punches.
Speaking of rolling,
nice.
See what I did there?
Nice.
Before we get into Rolling Thunder, your new feature film, I want to real quick bring up something else that we talked about last time. You had said that maybe the hardest part of this dietary lifestyle was not going to Taco Bell.
Yeah.
How's that working for you?
I went to Taco Bell last night. That was the cheat.
Oh, there you go. Did you hear that they got rid of like 11 menu items?
Well, little did I know, because I hadn't been in probably a year, and I asked if I could get a grilled stuffed burrito, and they said, we don't have that anymore. And I was like, well, tonight's ruined. But I still got some stuff. But yeah, that's really weird that you bring that up. Yeah, I went yesterday for the first time in probably a year, and it tasted great, and then I felt like crap afterwards.
That's hilarious.
Got what I wanted.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But it's good to have that thing to look forward to every once in a while. Like, and that doesn't keep you sane. I mean, because I did carnivore before my wedding last year for 3 or 4 months, and I only lost maybe about 10 pounds, but it looked like I lost about 30. I mean, I don't know what it is about that, and I felt great, too. I could eat steak and eggs and butter every single day, and I'd be pretty happy. So, I don't know. I see a lot of people working real hard on their diets, working hard in the bad way, where it's like they've got to count things, and I can only have green things, and it's like, no, like, you can eat real food, you can eat greens, and you can eat red meat, and you can eat chicken, and you can eat butter. Like, just stay away from carbohydrates for the most part, unless they're green vegetables, and you should be fine. That's it.
Yeah, that's the truth. My favorite thing is when people ask how many calories I eat a day or how many calories is in this or in that. And I'm like, couldn't tell you. I haven't looked at a calorie count in 2 years. Like, I have no idea. It's not about calories.
Yep. It's about being full and stopping when you're full.
Yeah. And it's about, eating the right things. And if you eat the right things, then you won't be hungry for a long time.
Yeah, I basically do intermittent fasting just by default.
Yeah, just by default, right? Because you're not hungry for whatever the meal is that you're skipping.
Yep, pretty much once a day, and sometimes two.
Yeah, right there with you, my man. Now, back in the olden days, when people could go outside and people could be within 6 feet apart and people could actually hang out together, you had a weird idea. You rented a house for $5,000 for one day, and you decided you could make a feature film in one day. Am I wrong so far?
No, I'm very impressed by your double research here. Yes, it's correct.
Thank you. I'm guessing that house was in Burbank, but at least it was in the LA area.
Yes, Burbank.
Let's talk about what gave you this idea to make this film.
Sure. So originally, I had a few investors who I had reached out to see if they would be interested in financing something I would do next. And, the answer was it depends. Like, they support me and they like what I do, but it always depends. And the original idea was to do a short film based on a feature script I was working on so that I could do a really great. So I had $35,000 in mind for a short film where let's spend 3 days and shoot a really slick. Because I've never really been able to do narrative in a way that I know I can because it just costs so much to do. So the only way to do it would be to do a short, shoot for 3 days and, shoot on film, do heavy production design, do everything up. But I realized I wasn't comfortable with asking for money as an investment. And I really knew that short films the likelihood of it making its money back was very low. Like, it just is not going to. And there's a 3-4 year period after the short was going to come out that I would be trying to make the feature film. And it just was not a very sound investment, and I didn't feel like even asking for that. So I was thinking about it, and on Black Cat, a movie I had made at this point 4 years ago with my friend Grant, there was one scene in Black Cat where it was a day on set gone wrong. And it's only like 3 or 4 minutes in the movie, but we essentially did this thing where we were supposed to show that this film set had gone completely wrong and got everyone on set and had our real crew that was shooting Black Cat on set acting as the crew. And we documented the process of making a scene so that in the movie you could show the behind the scenes, just like, the movie Disaster Artist, how they do it. So we did that, and it was 3 or 4 minutes in the movie. And then I, at one point, thought, I wonder how much of that footage was usable because it was so funny. And what I did was I just strung all the footage out in the timeline, and it was about 90 minutes long, and it was all fairly usable because it was just everyone was acting as if. It was really funny. And I thought, $35,000, I bet we could do this again in one day. And if I really tried to make it a feature. And so my friend Jake, who's the lead actor in the movie, who plays Benny, we developed this together in terms of the story. And my wife, Katie, produced it. And we basically decided that we would make a movie about the making of a short film. And so the only thing we had to do was write a really bad short film and then get a crew to come shoot it. So you have to kind of engineer it this way. You have a bad short film, a crew shooting it, actors in the short film, and then you have 8 or 9 behind-the-scenes cameras documenting the process of making that short film. The conceit would be that everyone is acting as if they don't know that Rolling Thunder is the movie, but that this really bad short film is all they're there to do. And so what you see in Rolling Thunder is an 84-minute movie that was people improvising for 8 hours as themselves making a bad short. So I hope that wasn't too confusing, but it was always confusing to everyone I tried to explain it to before we made it. And I'm glad that we were able to convince people to do it, because I don't think many people showed up to set that day knowing what was going on, but it turned into something, and I'm just glad it's out.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Erica.
And I'm Cassandra.
And we're the hosts of Trashy Trashy.
We're a podcast filled with trashy news stories and garbage people.
Did you leave the scene of an accident to go tanning?
Do you refer to wearing the strap down on your Crocs as sports mode?
Have you ordered Domino's online before they even open in the morning?
Are you switching the same AAA batteries from your TV remote to your vibrator instead of just buying more batteries?
Or are you normal?
Check us out wherever you download podcasts.
Let's get back into it.
So you basically summed it up as a feature film about the making of a terrible short film, right?
Yeah, so like almost like Project Greenlight, or a fake version of one of those behind-the-scenes documentaries you see on a DVD or Blu-ray. I'm
going to say that description is closer in tune to the Broadway play and later film, The Producers.
Oh, yeah.
You did send me the link to watch this before it even came out. So thank you very much. I super appreciate it. That was dope. It made me feel special in all my tingly parts.
Oh, there you go.
I watched it, and it had been so long since we had talked about it, I didn't remember anything at all about this film. So basically, I went into it blind.
That's good.
I giggled out loud when a couple of the actors came on the screen for the first time. I won't say who they are, but I was like, oh my God, holy shit, that's amazing. And then some of the other stars that were in this film. Again, this is a low-budget indie film that you really just pulled a bunch of strings and called in a lot of favors, right? I mean, that's basically how this thing got made.
Yeah, and it was easier to get, Chicago to show up, or Joe Mantegna or West Studi, when you tell them you only have to be there for, Chicago was there, I think, for 4 hours. Joe was there for maybe 5. Wes was there the whole day because he's kind of the co-lead with Benny, Jake. So it was easier to get people to do it when it was less than half a day of their time.
Now, let me ask you this. You mentioned Wes Studi.
Yeah.
I am sure that you know this, but did you know that he, this year, received an Academy Award?
Yeah, and, when we made this in June of 2018. I had met with him a couple months earlier because I was developing another project that I wanted him to be the lead in, and we just talked yesterday, and we're working on something now, like a big feature film. And I met him in Santa Fe because he lives in New Mexico, and I had reached out to his managers and told them I had this script that I wanted him to work on, and originally it was going to be that short film that I decided not to do in lieu of doing Rolling Thunder, or the other way around. But I went and met with him, and he is exactly what you want him to be in the best way. Like, he's a great guy, extremely, I wouldn't call nice. Nice is not a good term. He's just very kind and very giving of his time for this Rolling Thunder, because he thought that he should work on it so that he could see how we'd work together. And so originally that character wasn't even in Rolling Thunder. And, 2 months before we were going to shoot, I said, hey, I've got this thing coming up. Maybe you could do it. And he thought it would be a good idea. So I added that role in, and it ended up making the movie work, I think.
Well done.
Thank you. There were so many different roles that were, fluid in this movie. So it's always moving around. And it's like cooking, and how much do you use white sugar or do you use brown sugar? Like, you have to figure out what you're using to cook a meal anyways. So with Wes, I've got this great actor who he's been in all these movies I love. And the funny thing is, we finished shooting and I was like, this guy is just incredible. And everyone who works with him knows it, but he's just an incredible actor. I've gone from making student films in 2006 to working with West Studi in 2018. So it's 12 years, but you really see when you give these guys, like there's a monologue at the end of the movie that was pretty much the only thing in the movie that was written that I had sent to him a couple days before. And I'm so used to actors being good, but when I gave it to him, I mean, he did that. That was the first take. It's like,
Really?
yeah, this guy's incredible. And then he wins an Oscar for Lifetime Achievement. But we have other plans. I think we're going to try this new movie that we're working on that I can't really talk about right now.
Sure.
I can't say enough about Wes. He is just an incredible actor.
He is an incredible actor, and you mentioned that basically that monologue towards the end of the film. He has a line in there. It made the movie. Like, there's this one line that was so perfect that it put a period on the movie, if that makes any sense.
Thank you.
I don't want to spoil it for everybody. That was so perfect.
And he nailed it. Yeah. Thank you.
You are welcome. So you wrote this with Jake?
Yeah, so basically the way we did it was he'd come over once a week or twice a week or whatever, and we would just talk. There was no script for this movie. The only thing we had written down in terms of this is what people need to say is the little short scenes that the movie's, divided up into 4 sections. So each quarter of the movie is one scene that they're shooting. And that was how I knew that it would eventually edit together into a full feature. So we had 4 scenes that we wrote that were pretty much nonsense. So they don't match up. And that was part of the fun for me was like in the movie, we show the edited scene after they shoot it. So this just looks like total chaos. And then I show the full scene and they aren't half bad. They just don't connect to each other in any way, which I thought was just a funny concept that this guy had gotten this big budget short film within the concept of the movie. He's making this big budget short film. And it's just like, how did he convince these people to do this? So Jake and I would meet and we would just talk about, because it was important for him to know above everyone what was going on that day. So we would just say, okay, well, this is the through line of these scenes, and maybe you say this line, and maybe you go this direction. But in terms of working with someone like Joe, I just met with Joe, and I'd worked with him a couple times, and I gave him the brief idea for the movie, and not that he didn't get it, but it's just something that you have to experience in order to do. So I said, Joe, just show up to set. You are Joe Mantegna. You are in this bad short film. Here's the script for that. There's going to be multiple cameras watching everything that's going on as if it's a documentary. You will get it when you come in. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. But I could tell that he was not alone. There were multiple people who were very nervous. The person who plays Benny's assistant, Jenna, I went to college with her. She told me a week before, she was like, I'm very nervous about doing this. And I was like, why? And she said, because I have no idea what's going to happen. And I said, even better. So the idea for me was this is a foolproof idea in a way where I just cast based on who was good at improvisation. And I knew that by the time they got to set, it would all fall into place. And the first couple hours we were shooting, it wasn't good because people were trying to do a thing, because you're in that mode as an actor, I think, where you want to come across a certain way and you want to do the thing. But after about an hour and a half, 2 hours, it really settled in. So really, if you're looking at it that way, the movie is really only about 6 hours of the day that you're seeing. And it took only 6 hours to shoot that entire thing. So pretty crazy.
That is very crazy. Now, you did spoil it that the band Chicago is in this film. Just briefly, because I know we touched on it before, but just briefly, tell me how it is that you happen to have a relationship with the band Chicago.
So in 2010, I was just out of college, and my uncle had just joined the band. And they were recording a Christmas album in Nashville and needed someone to come and do behind the scenes. But the companies that were going to shoot a 10-day behind the scenes were just way too expensive at that point. And they didn't even know if they were going to use it or if they needed it. But my uncle had said, my nephew just graduated from film school. So Lee Lockmain, one of the original members, called me and asked if I would be willing to come out and do it for free if they paid for, the trip and all that stuff. And I was like, of course, get to work with Chicago. And, I'm 23. And I go out there and do that and did a good enough job and eventually became their road videographer until a few years after that. I did the documentary that was eventually on CNN and on Netflix until recently called Now More Than Ever, The History of Chicago, which is the documentary about their entire career up until that point. And so I've had a relationship with them for, at that point when we were making Rolling Thunder, like 8 years. So they were going to be in Los Angeles for a show at the Forum, and I checked their schedule, and they did have a day off before it. And, you know, I'd worked with them for 8 years, and I thought it would be okay to ask if they'd be in it. And they said yes, and the rest is history.
So did you schedule the filming of that movie around their schedule? Like, did you pick that day?
Yeah, we wanted to film in the summer, and I just looked at their schedule, and they happened to be in Los Angeles 2 weeks before I wanted to film anyway. So I said, we'll just move it to that day, and it worked out.
They do have, I mean, a fairly prominent role. There's some great lines from some of those dudes, and it's no doubt that they are integral to the storyline. I don't think you could have made that particular movie without them in it, so it's really cool that, you know, you were able to do that with them and that they were nice enough to help you out. That is dope. You don't really see that very much, I don't think, especially from iconic, legendary bands. So that is super, super cool.
They're the best. I know I said this last time, but I will never stop saying how good of guys they are. Like, I think it's because they've never stopped working. This is the longest they've been off the road in their entire career, and it's because of a global pandemic. So I think the reason that they are such great guys is they, since 1967, has been touring nonstop, and they've never really had a dip in terms of work. They've always been going, and I think that if they had stopped for 10 years, they may be a little more jaded with the world, but they're just the nicest guys in the world. I mean, like you said, they showed up and did my movie and didn't have to.
Like you said, I'm sure they were ad-libbing or whatever, but they did a great job. Well done.
I'm sure they'll be happy to know that people liked it.
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine anybody who's not going to like their performance in this film. It's great. They did wonderful. So how do you know Joe? You said you worked with him previously, but how do you know him well enough to say, hey, I need a favor, and him to say, okay, kid?
Through Chicago. In 2011, we were doing a music video for one of their songs on the same album that I went out to record the first time. So a year later, they were doing the music video for Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, and I got to direct the music video. And I knew that they had known Joe from a long time ago, because when they had first started out, they were in rivaling bands, and whenever Chicago would get fired for not playing the hits that were on the radio and they'd play their own music, they'd get fired from clubs, and Joe's band would get hired to come in and play for them. So they knew each other from then. You know, they'd known each other the whole time. So they asked Joe to be in the music video, and so I worked with him on that, and then he was also in the documentary about them. So I had been friendly with him basically solely because of Chicago, and that's essentially why he did this movie too. And then it really made me feel good, because after we shot it, we were talking, and he was like clearly impressed by the organized chaos of the day of shooting. Like, he got it immediately when he got there, and he was very impressed by the creativity of it, because he's a writer too. I mean, he's written some plays, and he's not right now, but was right before the pandemic, directing a Lenny Bruce play off Broadway that did really well. And so it made me feel good, because I think it was the first time he saw me as a filmmaker and not just a guy who worked with Chicago. So it's really cool.
That is really cool. Seriously, that cast of characters in this film is great. Tell me about the guy who plays, I think it's Maxwell. And why do I know him?
Douglas Bennett. You've probably seen him 10 times and not known it. He's been in a lot of TV shows.
I want to say he was it like Marilyn Manson or some shit?
He has played Charles Manson before.
I said Marilyn. What a dumbass.
He's got a lot of white makeup. He could probably play Marilyn. He's played Charles Manson before and like 3 things. But he was a regular on Sons of Anarchy. He was in Dexter, CSI, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's been in a lot of things.
I was about to say, he's that guy.
Yeah, and he was also in Black Cat. He was the lead in Black Cat. And then he was, I think last time you said you had seen my short Bad Reputation.
Was that the one with Kyle Mooney?
Yes, he's in that too, but he's clean-shaven in it, so he doesn't look anything like it.
Ah.
he's a great actor, and he has this long beard and long hair, and it's pretty much strictly for casting. Like, he gets cast a lot because of that hair.
I bet.
People cast him as scary roles, but I just see him as this funny, weird kind of character. He was also in The Kid, which came out a couple years ago with Chris Pratt and Vincent D'Onofrio. He's constantly working, but I think that there's something for him that's a really big role that could get him some notice for just being the great actor that he is.
I love to hear that your wheels are always turning. You're always looking down the road at the next project or the one after that or the one after that. That's really cool.
Yeah, you have to. You really have to.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Magic 8 Ball. Should people visit disabilityshirts.com?
Yes, I am sure.
This is Sammy Hooney. I play Esperanza on Netflix's Raising Dion, and you're listening to the Fascination Street podcast. If you're looking for some shirts with inclusive messages, check out my store, disabilityshirts.com.
Hi guys, I'm Vinny Tartarich. I'm the guy that has the Fitness Confidential podcast and the book by the same name. I've started a few companies, but I just started a company called NSNG Foods, and our first product is Ultra Fat. What's that? You say fat? Oh yeah, it's got fat in it. It's got ultra fat, and the reason we call it ultra fat is because it also has electrolytes. So this is something you want to take when you're on the move, taking the nation and the world by storm. We have the coffee almond with coconut and vanilla. We also have the one with coconut, vanilla, and almonds with no coffee. So you can go check it all out, nsngfoods.com. Now go listen to my good friend Steve Owens because he knows what he's talking about.
Let's get back into it.
Why did you want to be a filmmaker, Peter?
The truck chase scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark was probably the first time I can remember where I was like, how did they do that? Then it kind of spiraled from there. I mean, I became a Harrison Ford fanatic at like 8 years old and watched everything I could watch of his. And it built from there. I made movies in grade school with my friends and then in high school with my friends. And I've pretty much made something every summer since high school.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, not in the last couple of years just because I've been, finishing these projects. But from 2003 through 2014, I think I made something every single summer.
That's amazing.
And, nobody's seen any of them, but
You're funny.
That's what you have to do to get there.
How are your friends Joey, Pacey, Jen, Jack, Andy?
Who?
All your friends that lived that Dawson's Creek life with you.
Oh.
Because he was a filmmaker in high school on that show, and that was sort of his whole life's goal. And so he would make movies while he was in high school. He started a movie club. And
I have never seen Dawson's Creek.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's your life if you lived on a creek.
I've got to go watch it now.
You don't. It's not worth it. But the connection is there.
I know James Vanderbeek's in it.
So is Katie Holmes.
Yep. And our boys, Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew, are also in it in one episode.
That is true. Actually, not everybody, but almost everybody who was in that went on to be, even more famous than they already were.
I know. I saw that clip with Carolla, and I was shocked at all the people in it. I was like, oh, my God.
It's insane, right?
Person? Yeah. Crazy.
It is absolutely crazy how many people are in that and went on to do stuff. We're not here to talk about those idiots. We're here to talk about this idiot. Why did you name the film Rolling Thunder? So
this is interesting, I guess.
I prefer the term fascinating.
It's fascinating. We're on this podcast. Nice plug. So originally the short film was going to be called Thunderous because in our heads we had to at least justify what the characters thought the short film was about. So in our head, the short film was about Joe Mantegna, who is a famous comedian. That doesn't translate at all in the movie, but we at least knew it. And he was a famous comedian, so the idea of getting thunderous applause was over in his life. And so we were going to call the short film Thunderous. And it was called Thunderous, but the problem was on set, they had put on the clapboard that it was Rolling Thunder, directed by Peter Pardini. And at a certain point, I caught it and I said, No, you got to change that. It's directed by Benny Blake, and I didn't change the Rolling Thunder because I didn't think about it because it was so hectic on set.
That's
There's
funny.
a few shots early in the movie where I had to zoom in on the clipboard to crop out Peter Pardini because that would not make sense. And so we couldn't call it Thunderous anymore either because the entire time the clapboard said Rolling Thunder. But the idea for Rolling Thunder came from just impending doom, thunder in the distance, it was a very evocative title. And then last year, or 2 years ago, right after we finished, Martin Scorsese comes out with a documentary about Bob Dylan called Rolling Thunder Review. And I was like, God damn it, we got to change this now. But then I just thought about it. I was like, no, I'm going to keep it. It's fine. It's different. And that movie will be a year and a half old at a certain point, and it will not be a big deal. So that's the story.
Well, that is a good story. So the film is out now, Rolling Thunder. Where can people find it?
Right now, it's on iTunes. We're looking at some other platforms to roll it out to. So by the time this airs, it might be somewhere else. But you can just search online if you don't have iTunes. I mean, almost everybody has access to it. So we figured it was a good beginning spot. But if at this point you don't and you want to see if it's somewhere else, just search Rolling Thunder Peter Pardini and it'll come up for you.
Nice.
Scene one, take one, Mark.
And action.
Trust me, I understand where you're coming from. I just think it would be a good thing for you if you gave him a chance. I don't know, it seems like he's coming from a good place.
It's too late for him to be coming from a good place. You have no idea what he put me and my mom through. He can't suddenly just become my dad because mom died.
Wes, what are you doing? Dude, this is not a rehearsal. This is a go. Can you step out?
Action!
I'm Benny Blake, if you didn't know already. When I have my Criterion releases later on down the line, this is going to be something that the fans are going to want to see. They're going to want to see the humble beginnings.
I try to understand where your head's at, but this is embarrassing.
Excuse me? You're embarrassed.
Why does my daughter have an English accent?
You're right. Let's do no accent. The last scene, we'll dub it over. Your boy Benny Blake. I work with the likes of Wes Studi and Joe Mantegna, and
I can't believe I'm working with him. This whole thing has been like a fiasco. You understand? You know what I mean by fiasco?
Chicago the band plays in my movie. Everyone under 25 is going to know who Chicago is after this movie. The millennial kids. Hold on, the millennial kids.
You fucking validated us.
Don't tell me.
He definitely has his own way of doing things. It makes it, I don't want to say hard, but it's a good challenge. It's challenging.
Starring Jake Armbruster, Academy Award winner Wes Studi, Tony Award winner Joe Mantegna, and Grammy winners Chicago.
The way you handled each and every obstacle was such weakness.
I have had enough!
All you've done is aim a camera at successful people who are now feeling like they have been conned.
30 characters, 8 cameras, 1 day of filming. Rolling Thunder, a Peter Curtis Pardini film. Here's an inside baseball question for you. You filmed this in 2018. I think IMDb lists it as a 2019 credit for you.
Yeah.
Wikipedia, I think, lists it as a 2020 credit for Wes Studi.
Weird.
What's going on?
Well, IMDb is really hard to change once you put it up, and we were almost accepted into a major film festival in 2019. And so I had put 2019 on it because I thought that was going to be released then. But now when you go on and you try to change it, it's a hassle to do. So I figured just leave it. It doesn't matter. Like, people are going to watch it or not. Like, no one's going to go onto IMDb after they were on iTunes and go, wait, 2019, I'm out. Like, it's going to just be, they're going to watch it or they're not. It is confusing, but you'll see a lot of movies that come out in festivals and then they don't get released on home video until a year later. So the date's like way different. So it just is what it is when you're not an Avengers movie that can be changed.
Yeah, I think also I think it's a Hulu film called Palm Springs.
Yep.
Which is Andy Samberg's new film.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is sort of the same thing. The regular internet says it's 2020, but then I think on IMDb it says 2019, and then on Andy's Wikipedia I think it says 2018 or something like that. So
yeah, it must have been filmed in 18 and then released at a film festival at the end of last year.
Yeah, I think I read that there was maybe even a bidding war to buy this at a film festival.
Yeah, I loved it.
And I think it was supposed to come out in theaters, but with all of this, they were just like, fuck it, let's just put it out on Hulu. Yeah, my wife and I watched it last weekend. It's so great.
And I think it works better when you're watching it at home.
I think so, too.
It's like a movie like Tenet or any other big budget movie, A Quiet Place and Top Gun. Like, those have to be seen in theaters. But it's a smaller comedy. I think you have a chance of getting seen by more people anyways at home.
Yeah, I think so, too.
We've both seen it.
Yeah, that's true. It was really funny. I was listening to 2 different podcasts. My wife and I watched it last weekend, and then, a couple of days later, I was listening to 2 different podcasts. I guess I was a week behind on them, so they had recorded them the week before we watched it. Both of them, reviewed the movie. So, it's out there and making waves, and we only heard about it from NPR. So, it's out there, and it's getting buzz, and it was well worth it. Where's the buzz on Rolling Thunder? Are you going to be on NPR?
I am lucky that I have been on a lot of podcasts because of my work with Chicago and Vinny, and I have been messaging incessantly to get onto podcasts and to promote. I was on Jimmy Pardo's yesterday, trying to get on some others. I was on Vinny's yesterday. But, Chicago just promoted it as we're talking. They just sent out an email and everything. So I've got that type of buzz. But you know what? I have reached out to the bigger ones, and they just don't respond. I don't know how it works getting reviews, but you see some really small indie movies with 35 reviews, and it's like, how'd they do that? And then my guess is they probably had to pay a publicist. Then the publicist goes and uses their inside connections. And for me, I'm willing to strike out on my own to start. My company owns the movie. We have it. We're self-distributing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't have to answer to anybody. We just have to share the 30% with iTunes, and that's it. We get the rest, and then we handle it with our investors, and I don't have to go through a middleman. So it's the same as agents and managers. I don't think an agent really does much for you until you are big. You know what I mean? An agent makes that deal that much sweeter, and you need an agent when you are a prominent person. But at this point in my career, it's just moxie and just persistence and kind of doing it yourself, because you should have to do it yourself in order to get to where you want to go. So that's my motto.
Well, I'm digging it. Grassroots and guerrilla warfare and guerrilla marketing and shit like that. Street teams.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that is kick-ass, my friend. What's next?
I'm working on something with Wes that hopefully I can talk about soon, but it's not that I want to jinx it or anything. But
oh, no, I got you.
So with this pandemic and everything, there's no meetings or anything really going on.
Right. Everything's on hold.
They're trying to recover what they've already started.
That makes sense. Well, we'll definitely have you back on to talk about that whenever that is talkable.
Absolutely. Another great interview.
You're sweet. So, Peter, where can everybody find you? You told us where we could find the movie. Does the movie have social media?
The movie does have an Instagram. I don't have it on hand. I think it's Rolling Thunder Movie on Instagram. But my website's peterpardini.com. And then I have a website for my company, Sonder Entertainment, and it's sonderentertainmentfilms.com. And I'm pretty much off of almost all social media anyways. It was too much of a distraction, and the risk-reward of it just was too depressing being on social media all the time. So I kind of got away from it. But those are the other places you can find me.
That is completely understandable. Peter, before I let you go, is there anything we didn't talk about or I didn't ask you about that you wanted to talk about?
No, other than just what you already said. Go out and check out Rolling Thunder. It's available for rent and purchase on iTunes, and I think you'll really like it. It's unique. And as far as I know, it's the only movie that isn't a single take movie, not one shot. The only movie that was shot in one day. So there you go.
I was going to ask you about that because I know that when we talked a year and a half ago, you had said that you thought it was, and it's good to know that you still think it is, that you haven't found out otherwise.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything else. Yeah, I was talking to Wes yesterday, and he was saying the same thing. I cannot think of one. Maybe there has been, but none that are prominent. So I'm not saying ours is prominent, but maybe one day it will be.
Maybe it will be. I love it. I think it's a great movie. I really, really enjoyed it. Streetwalkers, definitely go check it out. If you can buy it, buy it. If you have to rent it, but definitely give this thing a shot. It's unlike anything you've ever seen, but in a good way.
Man, thank you.
You are welcome. Peter Pardini, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to come back on Fascination Street Podcast and talk about your new feature film, Rolling Thunder, available now everywhere. Go get it. And Matt, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. It was good talking to you again.
Thank you so much.
And you have a great rest of your day, sir.
You too.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.
As always, thanks for listening, Streetwalkers. And don't forget, follow the show on Twitter at FascinationSTPD, on Instagram at Fascination Street Pod. Follow the podcast page on Facebook at Fascination Street Podcast. And of course, you can always email me at fascinationstreetpod@gmail.com. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and rate us on iTunes. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.